Hi everyone. In this lecture video, we will going to talk about how to graph the cost volume profit analysis, and we will going to discuss the concept of margin of safety. To give you an overview of graph and margin of safety, there are two important graphs in CVP analysis, namely the BEP graph and the CVP graph. The difference between the two is that the BEP graph assumes that the production and sales are within the relevant range. Just a recap, when we say that it is within the relevant range, the unit sales price, the unit variable cost, of course, the unit contribution margin, the sales mix ratio, and the total fixed cost, all of these are constant. One basic assumptions in the relevant range is the linearity behavior of revenues and costs. On the other hand, the BEP graph is used for short-term planning and controlling purposes. The CVP graph is used for strategic economic analysis. Then, for the margin of safety, it is the difference between the budgeted sales less break-even point in terms of amount or in terms of sales. So that's how we will going to compute for our margin of safety. So budgeted sales, it can be, so the margin of safety, it can be in terms of amount or it can be in terms of units. So budgeted sales in units, then we will going to deduct the break-even point in terms of units as well. So if you are looking for the margin of safety in terms of units, use the units. And if you are looking for the margin of safety in terms of amount, use the amounts. Now let's try to answer our illustrative example. So we should be able to prepare the following: the break-even point graph and the CVP graph. The company expects to sell 200,000 units of XYZ product with a selling price of 20, variable cost of 12, and total fixed cost of 800,000. Remember that if we are looking for the BEP graph, then all of these three are constant. So here, if there will be zero production, expectedly, you can't sell what you don't produce. So our total sales here is now zero, but the total fixed cost is 800,000 for all of the production level. Next, the total variable cost is zero. So the total cost is 800,000. You will incur a loss of 800,000 because total fixed cost by its nature, you will going to still incur it regardless if there will be a level of production or there will be a production that you're going to make. Now let's try to answer for the 100,000 level of production. So the total sales here is that you're going to multiply 100,000 by 20 to get the total sales, and that will give you 2 million pesos. Then your total fixed cost is 800,000 and your total variable cost is 1.2 million. You will going to have a total contribution margin amounting to 800,000. Then your total fixed cost is 800. So your total cost will now be 1.2 million plus 800,000. You will going to get 2 million pesos. So you're going to incur zero profit and a zero loss. Meaning to say that this level of production, this will be your break-even point because you will not going to incur a profit nor a loss. So the total variable cost will going to multiply the 200,000 level of production by 12 and that will give you 2,400,000. So 2,400,000 plus 800,000 that will give you 3.2 million pesos total cost. Then you will incur 800,000 pesos. Then for the 300,000 level of production, I'll write it here. The total cost is 3.6 million plus 800,000. That will give you 4.4 million pesos. And your profit, you will incur 1.6 million pesos. Then for the total cost of 400,000 level of production, that will give you 4.8 million plus 800,000, that is 5.6 million pesos, and this will be 2.4 million pesos. Now that we have this kind of information, let's try to have the break-even point graph. So first, let's try to plot the total fixed cost amounting to 800,000. This will not be affected by the level of production. Our expectation on this one is that this is a straight line. So let's assume it here that this is 800,000. So let's put a label of total fixed cost. Now that we have plotted the total fixed cost, let us try to plot the total cost. So for it to be more intuitive, so let's change the color. So let's change it to color red. Then for the total cost, let's use color orange. As you can see here, if the level of production is 0, therefore our total cost will now be 800,000. So if there will be a 0 units, all right, then we will going to have 800,000 still for the total fixed cost. Now, if there will be 100,000 level of production, there will be 2 million total cost. So let's look for the 2 million. Then let's have here the 100,000. So there you go. So meaning to say your total cost will be the line for the total cost will be drawn as like this one. So first, you have to get how much should be the value of the total cost if the level of production is 0, then look for the next level of production, and that will be 100,000, then the total cost is 2 million pesos. Next, it says here that if there will be 0 production, then understandably, there will be a 0 sales. So let's use 0 level of production, then 0 sales. Then let's look for the next level of production. If there will be 100,000, there will be 2 million sales. Okay? So 100,000, then there will be 2 million sales as well, just like with our total cost. So our line here should be intersecting the total cost and the total sales. There will be a point wherein the total cost, let's put a label on this one, the total cost and the total sales will be of the same amount in terms of units or in terms of peso or in terms of currency, then that point will be your break-even point. So here, let's write break-even point. All right. So there's only one more thing that we should be able to graph, and that will be the total variable cost. So if there will be a 0 level of production, understandably, there will be 0 total variable cost. But if there will be 100,000 production level, there will be 1.2 million total variable cost. So again, it's 0 here. Then if there will be 100,000, 1.2 million, it's a little bit lower. So this point, let's connect this point from this point. So our total variable cost line will be like this one. If we are looking for the contribution margin here, it is always between the total sales and the total variable cost. So we will going to deduct the total sales and of course the total variable cost. But if we are looking now for the margin of safety, so any number of sales that will be beyond the break-even point. Let's say our sales here is 4 million. This will be our sales, our budgeted sales. And since our break-even point is 2 million sales, therefore our margin of safety is this area. Any sales that is within this area, that will be understood as the margin of safety, or meaning to say you are having a safe level amount of sales because you will not going to incur any losses. But if your sales will be lower than 2 million, then it is not anymore a margin of safety because you will going to incur losses here. So the reason for this is that if you're going to take a look at our graph, the green one, the total sales is lower. Okay, if you will see, is lower than the total cost. So that is how you should be able to understand the break-even point. So this is how you will going to illustrate your break-even point graph. Now let's try to solve for the CVP graph. The CVP graph emphasizes the profit or loss line. The sales line is presented opposing the vertical line representing the profit or loss line. So what do we mean by that? If this will be your amount and this will be your units, okay? So there will be 2 million, 4 million, and 6 million. So there will be an addition of 1 million and 2 million for this. Okay? Since our break-even point here will be any amount that will be lower than 2 million, so let's put it here 2 million. Then our total fixed cost is 800,000. So since we are deducting the 800,000, so let's put a negative 800 here, and this will be your 1,000 mark, negative 1,000. So let's put a line. So let's put a line here. So our BEP, our break-even point is at 200,000, meaning to say that in this area, you will incur losses. You will surely incur loss. But if you are going to refer to this area, you will going to incur profit. Any amount that will be less than 2 million pesos, you will incur loss because your total cost is 2 million. Let's say you're going to have a sales of 1.8 million pesos. That is lower than 2 million pesos. Your total cost is much higher than your total sales. So you will incur losses. But if your sales will be more than 2 million pesos, then that's the time that you will going to incur or earn profit. That's the end of our lecture video. Thank you all for watching.